One billionaire disappeared overnight. His private jet was still at the airport, his phone was found in his office, but he was gone. Then investigators discovered one clue. Now, while that specific opening scenario is actually a fictional mystery just to get you thinking, the truth of what we're looking at today, well, it's actually much stranger. Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to dive headfirst into the absolutely baffling reality of massive fortunes, sudden disappearances, and cases that have literally stumped investigators for decades. We're looking at true stories of absolute titans of industry who seemingly evaporated into thin air. So it introduces this really fascinating central paradox. I mean, we tend to think that having all the resources in the world, private security, endless wealth, global connections, that it makes a person untouchable, right? But we really have to ask ourselves, does immense wealth actually make you a target, or does it simply buy you the ultimate escape route? Today, we are going to break down the evidence from some of the most perplexing disappearances in modern history. All right, let's get into it with Case File 01, the $1 Million Vanishing. Picture this, it's 1919, and Canadian theater tycoon Ambrose Small is at the absolute peak of his power. On December 1st, he sells off his theater holdings and cashes a check for $1 million. To put that into perspective, that is nearly $18 million in today's money. Huge. But then, the very next day, he steps out of his office and is literally never seen again. Now here's where it gets kind of weird. His wife, Teresa, didn't actually report him missing for weeks. Her excuse? She claimed she thought he was just off with another woman. And meanwhile, that massive $1 million fortune, it just sat there, completely untouched in the bank. Right after Small vanished, this wild trail of strange clues started popping up. Just a month later, his employee, a guy named John Dowdy, completely skips town. And he doesn't leave empty-handed either. He takes about $105,000 in bonds that belonged to his boss. On top of that, investigators intercept this mysterious wire message sent to New York. And it simply reads, "Hold Small until tomorrow." I mean, come on, that absolutely screams kidnapping, doesn't it? So this creates a massive standoff. The police were dead certain Dowdy was involved in foul play. But when they finally tracked him down and caught him in Oregon, Dowdy claimed that Small actually instructed him to hold those bonds right before he vanished. Crazy, right? Ultimately, Dowdy was convicted of theft and sent to prison for 6 years. But here's the kicker. He never said another word about his boss. With Dowdy taking his secrets to the grave, Ambrose Small's fate remains a totally unsolved mystery, plagued by literally decades of fake sightings. Moving right along to Case File 02, the Mid-Air Mystery. Okay, we're jumping to 1928 to look at the disappearance of Alfred Lowenstein, who literally vanished from a moving airplane thousands of feet in the air. Now, to understand the sheer scale of this mystery, you really have to understand the man himself. The press actually dubbed him the third richest man in the world. He was likely sitting just behind heavyweights like Henry Ford and John D. Rockefeller. He was a global financier, a total infrastructure visionary, and a prodigious spender controlling this dizzying web of businesses. But, the extreme leverage and complexity of his empire were starting to catch up to him, and he had made some very, very powerful enemies along the way. So, set the scene. An impossible, locked-room mystery is about to unfold thousands of feet above the English Channel. At 6 p.m., his private Fokker tri-motor plane takes off. Perfect weather, no issues. Once they hit cruising altitude, Lowenstein walks to the rear of the cabin to use the lavatory. A few minutes pass. Then a few more. When his staff finally go to check on him, the bathroom is completely empty, and the plane's external door is just flapping wildly in the slipstream. Investigators were completely baffled, left with 3 heavily clashing theories. First up, an accident. But Air Ministry tests actually showed that opening that specific door against a 100-mile-per-hour slipstream was incredibly difficult, like almost impossible. Second theory, suicide, maybe driven by his looming debts. However, friends and associates pointed out he was actively planning future business deals. Why would he do that if he planned to jump? And the third theory, murder by business rivals. But think about it, that would require an incredibly risky, perfectly synchronized execution mid-flight. When his body was eventually found in the water weeks later, the autopsy showed he was actually alive upon impact. But honestly, that detail brought us no closer to knowing how he actually exited that plane. Next up, Case File 03, the Silk King's Jungle. All right, let's fast forward to 1967. American businessman and former intelligence officer Jim Thompson was famously credited with basically single-handedly revitalizing the Thai silk industry. On a peaceful Sunday in the Cameron Highlands of Malaysia, he goes to church in the morning with his hosts, normal day. At 2 p.m., he decides to go for a solitary walk. By 4 p.m., a cook at a nearby Lutheran mission spots him. But by 6 p.m., he fails to return to his cottage for dinner. That 20-minute window of him walking alone is the absolute last time anyone can definitively place him. And what happens next is just staggering. Authorities launched the biggest land search in Malaysian history. We're talking over 500 people involved, the army, indigenous trackers, missionaries, they even brought in mystics. The official search goes on for 11 grueling days. But there's one really crucial detail that stands out here. Bloodhounds were brought in, and they found absolutely zero scent trails leading from the cottage out into the jungle. Nothing. Which suggests to some analysts that Thompson might not have walked away at all. He might have gotten directly into a vehicle, immediately breaking the scent trail. Which brings us to our final section, Case File 04, Modern Missing Tycoons. Now, while the cases we've looked at so far are historical, this strange phenomenon definitely hasn't stopped. In recent years, a highly disturbing pattern of sudden vanishings and unexplained deaths has surrounded wealthy corporate figures, particularly within Russian industry. The sequence of events here is definitely chilling. And to be clear, we are just impartially reporting the facts exactly as they've been officially documented. You have Leonid Rajaskin, who vanished from his Latvian villa, leaving behind broken furniture and blood splatters. Then there's Ravel Maganov, the chairman of a national oil company, who fell from a Kremlin hospital window on a day when, coincidentally, CCTV cameras were reportedly turned off for repairs. And Roman Starovoyt, a transport minister dismissed from his post and found dead that exact same day. Let's take a closer look at the case of Leonid Rajaskin. Officially, the police concluded the case when a decomposed body with his credit card was found in a forest years after his disappearance, and DNA testing confirmed a match. Case closed, right? Well, actually, scratch that, not exactly. Even with hard DNA evidence, his own former associates continue to circulate rumors. They point out that his private jet, a 9 million pound jet by the way, left Latvia immediately after he vanished, embarking on a globetrotting trip. Because of this, many people still genuinely believe he staged the blood in his villa, got plastic surgery, and entered some sort of witness protection program to escape his business rivals. So whether it's a theater mogul in 1919, a massive financier falling from the sky, a silk king vanishing into a dense jungle, or modern executives meeting very sudden ends, the intersection of immense wealth and total disappearance is just endlessly fascinating. We have the facts, we have the timelines, and we have the evidence, but the final, definitive conclusion is still somehow out of reach. Do you think this was an accident or something more? Comment your theory below and subscribe for more mystery stories.